Welcome back, and before we begin our ghastly tale, we thank you for visiting us and hope you will consider liking our videos and subscribing as we add new content weekly. But wait, your comments are invaluable, so please tell us your thoughts as we learn and grow. Now on with the show, or this story in particular, which is For the Birds. In the quaint neighborhood of Maplewood, the park was a beloved haven for residents. Families gathered beneath the shady trees for barbecues and picnics. Children flew kites, played on the swings, slides and monkey bars, and joggers ran along the winding paths. Amidst this picturesque setting, an elderly woman named Agnes was a familiar sight. Every day, like clockwork, she could be seen sitting on her favorite bench in the same outfit, feeding the pigeons with her trusty, crusty loaf of stale bread. Her gentle demeanor and kindly smile earned her the affectionate nickname, the Bird Lady. A group of children who befriended Agnes loved to help her feed the pigeons. She would break them off chunks of the stale loaf of bread that she would bring daily to the park. The children would take the bread and help Agnes as they gleefully fed the birds while their parents watched. The children would even bring drawings of Agnes feeding the pigeons as heartfelt gifts for the Bird Lady. The parents of the children found it all so bucolic and heartwarming. This was why they had moved to Maplewood in the first place, for the safety offered by a small-town life and the ability to know your neighbors and the charming characters who lived there. All knew Agnes as a heartwarming, harmless, kind soul, clearly dedicated to the well-being of the park's pigeons and the neighborhood children. She was known to regularly donate to help those who were needy and hungry. In short, Agnes could teach a masterclass on kindness. She would leave her apartment daily with a stale loaf of bread safely tucked under her arm as she made her trip to the park to meet the children and feed the pigeons. She was as dependable as the seasons. Late one sunny afternoon, Agnes found herself running hours late due to a medical appointment. She had been delayed at the local bakery and, in her rush to get to the park, she absent-mindedly left the loaf of stale bread behind at the bakery. She hurried to the park bench without her stale bread, and by the time she arrived, no children were there to greet her, and the park was nearly deserted, with families and joggers having already gone home to prepare for dinner. She settled down on her green bench, expecting the usual flock of pigeons to greet her. It was only then that she realized she had neglected to bring the stale bread from the bakery. The pigeons slowly gathered around her, cooing expectantly. Then more and more arrived, flocking to and covering her completely. Naturally, Agnes had virtually trained them to expect the bread they were used to receiving daily. But it wasn't long before they realized something was different. Agnes had nothing to offer. She cooed and pet them, but was surprised when they became agitated and aggressive. So she decided it was time to return home. Suddenly, she realized that she was unable to get up with the weight of all the birds upon her shoulders and arms. She reached out but couldn't summon the strength to swat them away. She tried to grab them, but they avoided her grasp as their demeanor had completely changed from their normal cooing to frantic squawking. With no food for them, Agnes had broken what was an apparent compact between she and her feathered friends, and they demanded their dinner, one way or another. They began to peck at her clothes and skin, their beaks sharp and relentless. Panic set in as even more pigeons swarmed her, their numbers overwhelming. Agnes was completely trapped, unable to move as the birds flocked and clustered, smothering her on the park bench. Her muffled screams for help were drowned out by the flapping of wings and the frenzied cries of the pigeons. She could no longer scream. She could no longer move. She could no longer breathe. The next morning, the park began to wake with the sunrise. It was a beautiful, bright, crisp morning, but it would soon turn dark and horrific as a jogger discovered a ghastly sight. Agnes's skeletal remains were still seated on the park bench, completely stripped clean of clothing and flesh. The pigeons were nowhere to be seen, having disappeared into the early morning mist. The news of Agnes's gruesome demise spread quickly through Maplewood. The children who used to help Agnes feed the pigeons were in shock, and the community was horrified and mourned the tragic death of their beloved bird lady. A makeshift memorial was created, and a large mound of flowers, stuffed animals, and children's artwork gathered at the site of Agnes's park bench. Within days, the community installed a plaque on her park bench to commemorate Agnes and how much the community valued her. They held a memorial in the park to share stories of her kindness to the pigeons and the children. A front-page newspaper article dedicated to Agnes covered the memorial. Detective Tom Schilder was tasked with entering Agnes's apartment at the request of the apartment superintendent, who said there was a foul odor wafting from her apartment. Detective Schilder had known Agnes and had grown fond of her, as his own children had been among those who helped her feed the pigeons on their outings to the park. However, Detective Schilder's mood was about to turn from mourning to shock and revulsion when he discovered the truth about Agnes. When he entered her tiny apartment, he was greeted with the repelling stench of decay and the horrifying sight of cages, traps, and tools for butchering pigeons. The remnants of her grim meals were scattered throughout the rooms, and it became clear that Agnes had not only been the bird lady who cared for the birds she was known for feeding, she had also developed a taste for the birds. Apparently, she would lure the birds with stale bread, capturing them under her coat, then suffocating them or snapping their necks when no one in the park was any wiser. Detective Schilder was shocked and appalled by what he'd found. He was reticent to share the truth with the community, for it would destroy forever Agnes's reputation as the kindly bird lady. But it was about to become public record as he radioed back to the precinct to request backup. The beat news reporter at the scene found out the truth about Agnes and published a horrific, scathing tale of the dark side of the kindly, deadly bird lady. The community's perception of Agnes shifted dramatically. The woman once thought of as a gentle, kind-hearted soul was now seen as a sinister figure hiding a grotesque secret. The plaque on the park bench where she met her demise was ripped away by vandals, but no one was surprised, and no one sought to have it replaced. In fact, the bench Agnes used to sit on for the years as she fed the pigeons was eventually removed and discarded, as it only served as a constant and unwelcome reminder of the misplaced admiration the town showed for Agnes, and how they, like the pigeons, had been cruelly duped. As the years passed, whispers of Agnes's fate persisted. Many claimed to see her apparition and ghostly pigeons haunting the park at dusk, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Others swore they heard the eerie echo of her screams carried on the wind. The park, once a place of joy and tranquility, was now a place of chilling legend and lingering dread, known only as the place the ravenous bird lady was found dead. As the children learned the truth, they were now quite keenly aware that people are not always what they seem. Agnes's story served as a haunting reminder that beneath the surface of even the most seemingly benign individuals could lie the darkest of secrets. And ironically, in the case of the bird lady, her secret was her undoing. She was consumed by the very creatures she had fed and preyed upon, for so long as they meted out their deadly revenge upon her, leaving only her bones to bear witness. Now, wasn't that a charming, heartwarming bedtime story? We thank you again for visiting us, and hope you will like and subscribe, and we promise to create and add new content weekly for your eerie entertainment. Until next time, if there is a next time.